about, you shifted there, sorry. Uh, Wanted to talk to you guys today a little bit about winter allergies. Um, in the winter months, I know for most of the country, a couple things happen. In the north, things get cold. We get piled down with snow. In the south, temperatures drop, especially at night. Depending on where you are, one thing, however, holds in common. In the winter, temperatures tend to get cold enough throughout the entirety of the country where we end up closing up our houses. We shut our doors, we shut our windows, try and keep that cold air out, whether it's cold air, dry air, etc. And this doesn't seem like too big a deal, right? But what a lot of people don't realize is that right there is the main cause of many winter allergies. So you think about this. In the summer, we have lots of pollen. Most of the country, spring, summer, fall, there's lots of pollen, there's lots of plant matter in the air, dust, especially in farming areas. You get plant dust during harvest seasons, etc. It causes lots and lots of allergies. Oh, my cat is looking in the window. You don't get that kind of thing in the winter. You don't get pollen. You don't get plant dust from harvest. You do get dust, especially in the south, which can cause problems for some folks. But the main thing is we get a lot of stagnation in our atmosphere, in our homes happening in the winter months because of closing up the houses. So here's a couple of things that happens. Close up the house, you start running the central heat, start running those air vents, and first thing that happens early in the season, early in the winter, is all of the dust that's accumulated in those air vents that you might not have been using for part of the year, depending on where you are in the country, is all of a sudden getting blasted into the air. And so firstly, you're getting a lot of junk in the air just right there. Okay, but let's say it's later in the season, like now, where, okay, heaters have been on for a while, air's been flowing for a while. Why are we getting winter allergies? Well, a couple things. One, there's still a lot of dust in the air because, again, it has nowhere to go. We're not able to open our doors and windows. We don't have any good breezes coming through. And so all of the dust, even if we're keeping up with things, sweeping, whatnot, a lot of it is accumulating, a lot of it is building up in the air. If you have pets, pet dander is especially bad in the winter because, again, it has nowhere to go. The animals aren't outside, depending if you have indoor or outdoor animals. They're not outside, they're in the house, and they're shedding. I know it seems strange to believe. I live in Wisconsin. We have 2 feet of snow out here, and our dog is still shedding. Strange thing. You wouldn't think they would be, but it happens. The other thing is just like people, when animals are exposed to lots of dry air, they too get dandruff, believe it or not. That dandruff that the animals get is another contributor to pet dander. And so as that gets accumulating in the air, as that's floating around, you're breathing that in. Anyone with pet allergies, it's going to be exacerbated in the winter because it has nowhere to go. Now, if you have really good filtration systems in your house or, freestanding HEPA filter type things, great, that's fantastic. Unfortunately, the majority of people don't have that in their homes unless it's a brand new house. And so you get a lot of that floating around in the air. Other things that can happen, and this seems strange, people think, okay, winter, it's really dry. Most of the country is really dry right now. Well, the thing people don't think about is mold, fungus. Most people think, oh, well, it has to be wet, it has to be humid, it has to be damp for there to be fungus growing. Well, in the summer, in a lot of the country, that's a problem. You got to be aware of that. Mold growing, keep it clean, keep the bathrooms clean, things like that. It can actually be just as much of a problem in the winter because in the drier states, especially in the wintertime, we're running humidifiers. Well, okay, running humidifiers, putting water back in the atmosphere so you're not, choking on dry air all the time. Do you think to clean those filters or to clean those humidifiers very often? A lot of people don't. A lot of people see a little lime build up in there, but it doesn't harm the machines. They just keep it running. Well, the problem with that is if you keep putting water into that little tank over and over and over again and never clean it in any way, it can get fungus growing in it, almost like algae. It can get funguses growing in the water, and you're spraying that into the air. The worst spot in a humidifier is actually the spout. It's not actually the tank. It's the spout where that water comes out. Most humidifiers these days are cold water humidifiers. They don't produce steam, they put out cold vapor. Well, the problem with this is steam would burn molds. And so the old-fashioned steamer units were actually a little bit better with this. But the modern ones tend to be a little bit cold, or no heat at all in most cases. They just use a transducer like a diffuser. When you have those running, that spout, because it's always damp, can get fungus growing in it. And if that fungus starts putting off spores, that vapor that you're throwing in the air is just spraying those spores all over your house, and you're breathing those in. Now, that's not to say don't use a humidifier. We kind of need that in the dry months. So don't get rid of your humidifier, clean it. Here's how. Once every few weeks, put vinegar into the humidifier, and for about 10 to 15 minutes, run vinegar through it, or at least a half and half vinegar water mix. Straight vinegar is better, but even just a half and half vinegar water mix that will go up through those pipes, through those ducts in the humidifier, and kill any fungus that might be growing there. Because a lot of these things have small parts. You can't get inside to clean those tubes. And so by doing this, you can kill any fungus that's growing in those tubes, kill spores, and prevent it from spraying fungus into your environment. So that's a really, really big one, especially for folks with mold allergies, is be very aware of humidifiers and how they can accumulate fungus. They can accumulate mold, spread those spores. If you have an in-unit humidifier, now a lot of people don't know about these either. Now some houses, especially newer houses, have in-unit humidifiers, which means the humidifier is actually built into your furnace setup. So it's got a little tank attached to the furnace that automatically fills with a certain amount of water. A little kind of brush kind of thing spins around, a fan blows through right into your duct, and so it's actually humidifying the air that's coming out of your furnace, which seems great. But then you have to think about, okay, now we've got moist air, not only in that little tank that could accumulate fungus, but the entire system. The entire central system could have fungus growing in it from perpetually being filled with damp air. Again, same thing can be done depending on the structure of it. If you're not tech savvy or handy, talk to somebody who is, talk to a plumber, talk to a furnace guy, and take a look at that and see if there's anything growing in it. If you see anything black, green, or otherwise odd colored, anything that's not just lime, which you probably want to clean out too, you may also want to think about running a small batch of vinegar through that periodically, depending on its structure. Figure out a way to clean out your system. Anywhere that there's standing water can produce fungus. People don't think, again, bathrooms, you think, oh yeah, I gotta be aware of mold in summer, just as bad in the winter. Because unless you're running outdoor vents, venting the air, the humid air out of the bathroom outside, all that hot, humid air tends to hang in the bathroom. You get wet ceilings because it condenses, because the ceiling is cold before you get in the shower or the bath, and you can start getting mold on the ceiling. So be aware of that. Make sure that all stays clean as well. Vinegar is your best friend for killing mold. If you get vinegar in the grout, cool little trick for you. Spray it down with vinegar, tear strips of toilet paper, put that along the grout. Spray it again, make sure it stays on there, and then leave it for about 5 minutes. The toilet paper will hold the vinegar in the grout and will help kill any fungus, and it'll be much, much easier to clean out of there afterwards. Strange little hack for you. Works really, really good. So what are some remedies then? Okay, we've talked about some of the problems. We've talked about some pet dander issues. We've talked about dust blowing around. We've talked about fungus blowing around. A couple things you can do for yourself in the winter months. One, get a good home filter. Just something that will help clean the particulate, the junk, out of the air. Again, if you got a really good HEPA filter, great. If not, you can get great little freestanding units. Don't necessarily buy little ozonator units, though. They don't filter particulate out of the air. Many of them claim to, but a lot of them don't. So make sure you're actually getting one that filters the particulate out, because that's the big issue in the winter months. Excuse me. Other things to keep in mind is, okay, say you've got pet dander allergies, say you've got mold allergies, these things are happening. What's some remedies you can use in the winter to help fix this? So a couple of things you can get is there's homeopathic remedies specifically for winter indoor allergies. That's always an option. If you got a nice little natural grocer in your area, a lot of times you can find really good homeopathic formulas. BioAllers is a brand that has some really nice indoor and kind of anti-allergen formulas for homeopathics. Easy, simple to use, little pellets dissolve into the tongue, no taste. It's kind of mildly sweet, no big deal, easy. Other things, and these are things that I talk about a lot for summer allergies, but especially when you're coming with pet dander and things like that, quercetin is always helpful because it kind of acts sort of like a natural antihistamine, so you can use it in that way. You can get it if you don't want to take isolated supplement, quercetin as itself. Nettles, stinging nettle. You can get nettle leaf as a supplement. You can take it in capsules. You can get it in a tea. Some alternative grocers, natural grocers will even have it in bulk that you can even put in soups. It's like dry spinach. If you're lucky, you can find a place that has it fresh, but this time of year, probably not. A couple other things. Remedies, not only running vinegar through your humidifier, but periodically putting eucalyptus in your humidifier. Eucalyptus essential oil. That's a really good one for killing pathogens in the air, keeping your air and your environment clean. If you want to not only clean your air, but also make it smell really, really nice, use about 10 drops each of eucalyptus essential oil and lemon essential oil, those two. Put those in your humidifier or your diffuser if you have one. That's even better if you have an essential oil diffuser. And vaporize that into the air. Now, again, you'll have to look at your humidifier before you do this because some humidifiers have a tank that feed from the bottom, oil floats. So if you have a tank that feeds from the bottom, that oil will just sit in there and won't do anything. You have to actually put it in the outlet itself. It depends on your humidifier. Not all humidifiers are built for this. So you can't do it with all humidifiers. It's best if you have a diffuser, essential oil diffuser. 10 drops of each, smells amazing, makes your house smell like a rainforest. It's incredible. And cleans and purifies the air. Other things you can use. When you're cleaning your house in the winter, avoid using a vacuum when at all possible, because even though vacuums have decent filters on them, a lot of them spray certain amounts of dust and junk back into the air. The superfine particulate gets sprayed all over your house. So if you have wood or linoleum or tile floors, I would suggest actually opting for a Swiffer or a Maslin or something of that nature to clean up the floor without using a vacuum. Granted, if you've got carpets, it's unavoidable, but if you have hard flooring, definitely go for a Swiffer or a Maslin because that uses static electricity to cling all of that dust and junk rather than spraying it all over in the air. They're one of the best things for cleaning up dust and particulate, especially if you have pets. That pet dander is notoriously difficult to get rid of with a vacuum because it tends to be fine and all around challenging. You can put those essential oils that I mentioned in your vacuum filter as well. Put a couple drops just on the vacuum filter and you will know what's getting into your air because you'll be able to smell that very, very strongly, those essential oils coming out of your vacuum cleaner, which tells you there are fine, ultrafine particles, not only vaporizable things like the essential oils, but ultrafine particles that are getting through those. So keep that in mind. Another really good one for the winter, this is both helps with allergies and general immune booster for both adults and children, is elderberry syrup. One of my all-time favorite winter supplements is elderberry syrup. It helps boost your immunity and boost your immune resilience and sensitivity, I guess you could say. So when you've got histamines coming into the body, when you've got allergens coming into the body, when you've got pathogens coming into the body, the immune system is going to be much more ready to deal with those pathogens, deal with those allergens, and clean them up much, much faster. And so by incorporating elderberry syrup, it's even great for kids. And keep that in mind too. For kids, it is amazing. It tastes okay. Most kids have no problem with the taste of elderberry syrup. It's mildly sweet, kind of fruity. Way better than that Dimetap crap they gave us as kids. Really, really easy to get kids to take. And it will help boost their immunity, help keep them healthy through the winter season for both allergens and pathogens. So also is helpful for preventing the flu, for preventing bronchitis, etc., etc. Just keeps the system stronger all the way around. Another one, I'll just throw this in since I mentioned this for kids, an easy one in the winter, again, is those homeopathic remedies. So BioAllers is the brand, BioAllers. Indoor allergy formula. It's homeopathic. It just dissolves under the tongue. It's mildly sweet little pellets. And kids have no problem with them because they don't have any bad taste. They're just mildly sweet. Very easy to get kids to use those. Oscillococcinum is another good one for the winter. Cold and flu season, people start feeling they're getting sick. They're not sure if it's allergies, flus, etc., but you're starting to go down. Oscillococcinum, you just go to the natural health food store and ask for Oscillo. They'll know what you're talking about. It's hard to say. Just ask for the homeopathic Oscillo. So those are a handful of things that you can use real easily. So as we're going through the season, keep those things in mind. Keep in mind, again, fungus. You want to deal with that. If a person gets a fungal infection during the winter, whether it's lungs or skin or otherwise, a really easy old folk remedy that you can use is, believe it or not, soaking your feet in straight white vinegar for 15 minutes. Seems really silly, but does ultrafine capillaries in the sole of the foot is some of the most absorbent skin on your body. And by soaking the feet in straight distilled white vinegar for about 15 minutes each day, a little bit of that vinegar gets into those fine capillaries and kills any systemic or blood-borne funguses that are in your body. You only do this for about a week or so, and it can help clean out some of those funguses that are going through the body. If it's in the lungs, if a person has a fungal infection in the lungs, again, this happens in the winter. You want to, again, vinegar is your best friend. Put that in the diffusers, put that in the humidifiers, get it in the air, not enough to make the house super stink or anything like that, but get a little bit in the air so that it's helping clean that air. They're breathing in a little bit at night. Really helps. One more funky old folk remedy that's a lot of fun, if you don't mind smells. This is a fun one for kids if they don't mind smells, because they can actually see it working. So what you do is you take an onion. Again, you have to be okay with smells. Cut it in half, put half of it on a plate face up, cut side up, and set it next to the bed of someone who's sick. If you've got flu, a cold, bronchitis, anything like that, pneumonia, put that sliced onion, just half an onion, sitting there sliced side up next to their bed in the evening. And in the morning, it will be black. Onions have a lot of sulfur in them. And that sulfur tends to act as an antiseptic. Any pathogens or anything that come in contact with the sulfuric acid that forms on the surface of a cut onion, on that cut surface, ends up essentially getting burned. That's where the black color tends to come from. If you put sulfuric acid, I do not try this at home, very dangerous. If you put sulfuric acid on a sugar cube, it burns viciously. It turns into really nasty black carbon. It completely turns it to carbon. Same thing happens when bacteria, molds, pathogens, etc. come in contact with sulfuric acid, is they burn and they carbonize. And so see that the onion has turned black from the amount of junk that's fallen on it. Now you put that same onion in the room of someone who's completely healthy, or especially in a clean room or a nice clean house, by morning it'll look a little bit dried out, and that's about it. Seems strange, funky old folk remedy, like I say, but it can be an interesting thing to try, especially if you want to prove to your kids, you're sick, you got to take medicine. Here, let's prove it. Especially if you want them, if they are taste sensitive and they won't even use elderberry syrup or something like that. This is a clever way that you can sometimes convince them, see, the onion turned black. You need to take your medicine. Sometimes you got to be tricky with kids. Anywho, those give you some ideas. Again, keep aware of pet dander, dust, fungus in the air, and again, use Swiffers, Maslins, things of that nature to clean so you're not kicking junk up in the air. Keep your humidifiers clean. Handful of remedies, elderberry syrup, eucalyptus, quercetin. Just a nice little basic package for winter allergies and winter cleanliness, air cleanliness in general. So thanks for joining us. And if you'd like to hear more, we will be tuning in again next month. Thanks. Have a great day.